time. Hello, everybody. My name is History Williams, and welcome to the Historical Voices from the East Side. Let's give a round of applause for ourselves, everybody.
We deserve it. We deserve it.
We definitely deserved it. We got through Black History Month. We got through January. And you know the crazy and the wildest fucking thing is, dog. We got through a year. So it actually happened off the actual screen last week. In the middle of the stream, we actually had in the middle of the week, we actually had our anniversary. I got a letter from Anchor. It's been a year since our first episode was published. So JT, Jamel, we officially like broke the honeymoon phase of this podcast, and I feel like we
You got some cake to eat.
Yeah, we got some cake to eat. We done got over that shit, bro. This is so fucking dope, dog. With that, man. Hello, everybody. My name is History Williams, and you're listening a lot to Historical Voices. People who conform to gender norms and people who say fuck that. You know what? Big shout outs to you too. Round of applause for you as well. Thank you very much for joining us. The person right over here to my right side, this guy, he has been the voice of reason. He's the guy who makes us feel like we have some clarity at the end of the week, but also he can possibly make you feel like, you know what? I hate that nigga for what he said. He's all of those things. He's those many voices on the inside. he's that back of the mind kind of shit that just makes you ask questions and then say, damn, what did I do previously before I ask questions? This is our voice of reason. Thank you very much for joining us, Jonathan, aka JT, the voice. Give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
I got a question. Why did you introduce me like that?
Because I think
I'm just messing with you, man. Appreciate
it.
Glad to be here.
Oh yeah, I think that's a great way to like say that you are. You're like the person that's like you done fucked up originally, but then you ask yourself.
But talk about what happened though. Talk about what happened though.
We're gonna get to that later. We're not gonna dig deep into.
But it's funny if you do it before you introduce Jamel.
No, we're not.
That'd be so petty. But like, what if I use my turn to talk about it? Would you mind, Jamel? These two, y'all. First off, we have a great idea for a comedy action sci-fi fantasy movie.
Yes. Yes.
And koalas have chlamydia.
Yes.
That's what you missed this week.
That's what you missed. So one of the things I told you.
They also almost missed the end of the podcast the way we were going, but that's not,
I remember somebody interrupting my perfectly valid last word with some nonsense about rape. And I tell you what, that was such a depressing way to go out. I just God.
I'm
see, and that's why you need to be like, look, there needs to be a one rule. You know what I'm saying? Because if that happens to somebody in my family, well, you owe me a one body. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
You ought to get molested. You need a body. That's all I'm saying. And I feel like, some of these laws need to change. Be like, dog, don't be raping no women. They'll catch your body for that. You got to give them something. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Maybe that would help some people out having some real consequences. Instead of just getting away.
Just getting away for what?
Man. 3 months or something could ruin their life. And down below me, we have our good friend Jamel, who does Eastside Reviews on YouTube. Yes. Check him out, Eastside Reviews. What are those numbers after the Eastside Reviews? Shout out your YouTube handle.
Eastside Reviews on YouTube, Eastside Reviews on TikTok, and Jamel727 on Instagram.
Let it linger.
Wow, that was annoying. I like it. Can we do it again?
All right, hold up. So we've had a pretty interesting week. I proposed something to you, and I'm going to say two things I proposed. One of the things is we're not going to get too deep into it, me and Jamel, on our personal end. But one of the things that I proposed to the group was that like we have these fucking like talks, and sometimes the conversations that we have inside of these parties, especially with like voice to text, sometimes it's more interesting than the shit that I feel like sometimes we break up in here. So I do think that like extra content will be happening.
You gotta hear this shit, y'all. It was
So
absolutely a good use of your time.
I would definitely say that would be a subscription service item. That would be a bonus content
Oh
item
my
there.
god, I'd pay money to hear that craziness again.
Oh my god, it was so worth it, so worth it. So
you're just gonna have to trust me, folks. It's
yes, this was gonna be a salty edition, and it did not become a salty edition for
until
good reason.
you started playing sound effects.
So it's not gonna be too. We're not gonna be salty. We dropped it. We leave it alone when it comes to that. But I do think that we should take that idea. That is the biggest thing. The second one is the Velvet Freight Train of the week. Now, I know you're trying to figure out what the Velvet Freight Train of the week is. Sometimes you know how you walk across that random old nigga that says some shit and it just be smooth as fuck. He said, "Yeah, man, my life has been nice and cool and coastal throughout this way. The rest of this whole week." He said, "I just been moving like a velvet freight train. I just been smooth." So I'm tailoring that, right? I want you to tell me who's the Velvet Freight Train of the week. Who's your person who did something so smooth, but also so petty this whole week that should be acknowledged for their great smooth and pettiness to handle?
Me in the chat.
I will go first. Let's go with a more of a national one, and this goes kind of into my say what I said with
we
this
national. Week. We on Twitch worldwide. What you talking about?
we are on Twitch, we are on YouTube, and also we are on Spotify. So make sure that you check us out on Spotify or wherever you get your audio acoustical pleasures from. Big shout outs to all of those people who are on listen to this podcast. But yes, get it wherever you want to get it on. Check us out on your podcast. Historical Voices from the East Side. Check it out on Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from. But this week actually made a big deal for one particular person. This is a great person because their movie is about to come out, which is Creed 3. Michael B. Jordan made the news, dog, because they had a girl who came up to him for an interview, said that we went to school together and we used to have these apparently they had called him corny, and he was like, "Yeah, I know you called me corny," and he was like really kind of like, "Dad, you called me corny? Yeah, I heard you." And she kind of was like, "No, I never called you that." This whole thing came up, and in the middle of the interview, she asked like one question. After that, Jonathan Majors go up there, like shake his hand. The interview fucking dropped from there. It never happened. So Joe Budden goes on to his podcast and say that he did the most corniest shit of the corniest shit ever. That's why they call him corny. Jamel, did you get to see that actual video of that interview by any chance?
I did.
Gotcha. So do you think that Michael B. Jordan should have the category of being corny?
I have no place to talk because I'm kind of corny myself, but which kind of makes me the perfect judge of this.
I'm about to say,
on the one hand, I do think it is kind of a flex for him to be like, to basically do the Mike Jones back then. They didn't want me. Now I'm hot. They all want me.
Yeah.
That's one side. But then on the other side, it could be seen that it's kind of corny for you, successful, multimillionaire actor, director Michael B. Jordan, to bring up some high school shit to this girl. Could be seen as corny. So I thought it was funny. I thought, that girl gonna be embarrassed. It's not the most embarrassing thing that's happened to like a host or a question asker. I still think Cat Williams roasting that radio host is far worse. But yeah, she gonna be embarrassed a little bit. So I rule it as not corny.
Gotcha.
JT, I find it funny.
Gotcha. You said what you said on that one, man. What about you, JT? How do you feel? How do you feel that is? Do you feel it's corny?
That he is corny? That she called him corny? That he called her out for calling him corny? Look, there's plenty of corn here to be around. And wherever you plant your corn, you can find a field, dog. So whatever angle you want to pick that from, you can find some corn there.
I'm just curious because, like, I just think, what would you designate corny as? I just didn't understand that the purpose of the actual
corny is something.
A lot of Drake behavior is corny.
Corny is like you got to like engineer a situation and then pick it to be corny. You know what I'm saying?
Example.
So like it's like you found the old fruit we all knew was growing here and you picked it, huh? You corny. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, okay.
Am I making? Are you with me so far?
So I'm trying. Yeah, I'm traveling down that highway with you. I just don't know if
it's one of them things. Like corny feels like old fruit to me. Like that, it's been growing for a while. It's been sitting out there in that field for a long time. So like your dad might be corny because his jokes is old. You know what I mean?
Okay,
that's corny because your fruit has been hanging there for a long time.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? And so now you pick it. Oh, you corny, dog. You corny. Okay. And so like he was sitting there with that corny comment that she gave to him because he was wearing his grandfather's jacket one day at school. She called him corny or whatever. And okay, I'm gonna remember that. And then so in his little situation, he found his time and he picked that pumpkin corn and he handled his business. So I think that was a corny velvet freight train that ran through right there. You know what I'm saying? It was just shaped like a stalk.
Yeah, I feel.
You know what's weird about this situation is that Michael B. Jordan has been famous for a while. I'm rewatching The Wire season. Like he's on one of the great TV shows of the last 30 years, season 1, and his death is still one of the most pivotal moments of the show. He was in Hardball. I kind of don't. He's been around, so it's just like, could he have been corny in high school? I think we all may have had a corny day or two in high school, but if you know this nigga has been famous, it's just like, maybe I don't call him corny. Maybe I'll be nice. Maybe, hey, maybe one day I can get made famous. Who knows? Who knows?
So the problem was that. Go ahead. What you was gonna say?
I think corny. It sounds like you some old school type stuff. You know what I mean? So like if you come up with some manners, some respect, maybe it's some older clothes, it's older style. Oh, you corny now? Why? Because I came up to you and introduced myself. Now I'm the corny nigga. You know what I'm saying? And like I don't know. I think that corn is funny because all you need is one of them little seeds to plant you some, and you get a whole stalk with a bunch of ears. Fair enough. It's kind of like everybody used to do this, but now it's just you. You know what I'm saying? That's like what corny means to me.
So that was one of the things I got to ask you, because maybe for clarification purpose, because the way that you explained it originally, it almost felt like it was something petty, but then you just said that like it was almost a mannerism aspect of it. So like when I was in school, I used to be called corny because I used to wipe my face with a tissue, and like.
Wait.
Yeah, I used to like when I eat my food, I'll clean my face.
Did you drool or something?
No, I'll just be like, okay, cool. We got barbecue sauce. If you eat barbecue chicken or something like that, you got barbecue sauce. So if you got spaghetti, you wipe your face, right? And so
yes, you clean up as you eat. Yes, this makes perfect sense.
So that's
hygiene. Go on. That's corny.
They called me corny because of that shit.
They called you corny because you wiped your face.
Yeah, they said, man, why don't you just wipe your face like that? I was like, because that's not
Dog,
hygienic.
that's why your girl keep getting yeast infections. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but the
Just
thing about it was
mm.
that fact that it was a
That makes
female
no
that said that,
sense.
dog. It was a female
That
that said that
makes
shit to me.
no sense.
Yeah, it was a girl, and that's the crazy thing is because the fact that she was supposed to be like the pretty popular girl, and that was like the thing, man. It was when I was in middle school, and that was like she told me, she said, "Man, you so corny, like you supposed to be hood," because I grew up I was supposed to be in the hood, and I was just like, I did that shit in lunch. They didn't like the fact that I done.
Did you do, just wipe your mouth off like that, or were you or tuck the bib in and
I
have it
ain't
on your lap? Have it on your lap.
I,
Like, were you that?
I didn't do that, dog. I just was like, I ain't gonna lie. I probably was just like bad.
Then she may have had a point.
But just to do this though, Jamel, dog, come on, bro. That's
yeah,
that
seems
how
weird.
I did it. That
whole thing seems weird because it's just like, so what you want me to do? What if you're wearing a long sleeve shirt and you still supposed to do like this, and now you got sauce all over? Now you look stupid because you got sauce all over your sleeve. Or you do this, now you got sauce and slob all over your arm. Now I gotta wash my hands when I can just, take my little nap. Yeah, that girl, I do not want to know what her house looks like nowadays. She probably got a sink full of dishes right now. Mm-hmm. Got a bathtub that smell like fish, and it is just not hygienic. That's nasty behavior.
That's so bad. Fuck, man. All right, let's move on to our next topic of the week. All right, I sent y'all a video, man, because they're supposed to be having this movie called The Blackening come out. I think it's based off of the Comedy Central skit that they had. It was original Blackening sketch. I want to say it's like 2015. This sketch came out with. The whole purpose of it was supposed to be the serial killer was chasing this group of all black friends at their summer home, and they got to figure out who's the blackest person. The killer would leave them all alone if they gave them the blackest person out of the group, and this group got a vote to actually figure out who's the blackest person and give them up to the killer.
When that motherfucker said, "I voted for Trump," twice.
Oh my god!
I was like, I'm in.
No,
yeah, I'm in. I'm gonna give that a watch.
If they
can get me on that joke, oh my god, yeah.
I don't feel like the movie won't make sense until they do the same thing from the skit where they say all that matters. the hurt that came out of her voice to make sure she stayed alive. So, but my question, and I'm gonna start off with JT on this one, dog. Like the first thing that you see in the movie trailer is them open up this box. It's supposed to be this game, and they got like the blackface character, dog, and it's called The Blackening. And they said, like, what is this supposed to be like hood, like gentrified Monopoly? Like it was like so. Like the usage of the fact of like you have this blackface character with the big red lips and everything like that. So my question first off is to you is the usage of these type of like symbolisms in black films. Do you think that those type of things that were used to degrade black culture should be utilized as comedy for black culture?
Those who degrade black culture should be used as comedy for black culture.
So like blackface and like, like the jigaboo aspect of it. Do you think that should be utilized as comedy for
you got to understand your history, and especially in entertainment, like where minstrel shows is on Looney Tunes to this day. A lot of people just look at it like, this is molasses baby type looking stuff. This is, just how they drew it. No, that was how they viewed black people. And you got to understand that history.
Yeah.
And so when you add that to a movie, I think it is pretty much something that is normally symbolic in black movies, because they're trying to tell you, like, if you don't know about this, this is going to do you in. You know what I mean? So when it comes to this movie, I look forward to them because like at the end of the day, they're like, all right, just give me the blackest one. And like somebody should just be like, yo, it's me, dog. I rep. What's up? You know what I mean? But they like they sitting over there trying to outwhite each other.
Okay.
That becomes funny once you know the context about that. Because that might be what the killer's looking for. Give me the real ones. And y'all are all fake. You know what I'm saying? So that would be kind of cold, you know. And if everybody's trying to not be that guy, well, you know, who's gonna stay true? So my question to you, History, is if you get stuck in this house, what you gonna do to get out alive? Let's say what I just said was not the case. Normal rules apply.
Yeah.
They are trying to kill the blackest one, and you trying to say the rest of us.
Bro,
what cards you playing?
The name card, dog. The name card always wins. The name card always fucking wins. So, I have the whitest name, real life, whitest name for a black person, and
you know that's because of Power Rangers, right?
No, it's not because of Power Rangers.
Don't.
I have the whitest name for
us.
I think it'd be like Isaac.
Do you know my whole name, Jamel?
You know,
of us, no, you don't have the white. Of us, yes, you have the whitest name. But like in general, for like a black dude, nah.
Nah, bro, I got a white name. I think JT knows my real name. I think
dog,
he knows
it's
my
not
real
Kyle, bro.
Nah, dog. You gotta go off the middle name too, homie. The middle name.
But it's not Kyle.
I'm telling you, dog. I'm telling you. I confuse people every time I go to a job interview. Like they look, bro. I had a job interview, dog. I swear to God. The GM came out looking for it was like Deshaun or something like that. It was like that's the way the name is actually pronounced. Came out hard looking for this dude, and the dude had earbuds on the whole time, so he didn't hear her call the name. She said, Deshaun, and she was like going hard on his name. But she was looking at me for the name. Then she went up to him, touched him on the shoulder, and said, my name. And when he said my name, he was like, oh, damn. Okay, no, my name is Deshaun. Fucking white dude. Blonde hair, blue-eyed white boy. Had this goddamn name, Deshaun. His name is really Deshaun. I was like, that's crazy. That's wild. And she went to my name, which is the white dude. And you could see that like she had this broken look in her face. Like I completely profiled somebody just now by their fucking name. You could tell that it threw her.
I would whisper at her, be like, yep, you got caught. It's okay.
Yeah,
let's make this a good interview.
I think that's the only reason why we both got the job. I think that's the only reason why we both got the job. I think so. Because he came both of them now. Because he came in wearing earbuds. He was wearing like jeans, shorts, and flip-flops. He was not prepared. I came in there with a suit, like not a suit, but like I had a blazer and I had like a tie on, button-up shirt and everything like that. And my God, dog, I was like prepared for the interview, trying to get the interview for the job that I wanted, not the job that I was applying to. And she completely went past. She thought that I was Deshaun, dog. She was so hard about Deshaun. It was something like that, dog. I don't remember the dude's name. It's been like 4 or 5 years now. But it was fucking wild. It was fucking wild. So I certify that I have the whitest fucking name. I've had many.
What about you, JP? What would you do to survive?
I would go first. And then they're gonna be like, you're not gonna play the white savior on us.
I want to say, yeah.
Scot-free. Get out scot-free.
Yeah.
Yep. Mulatto's paradox. That's what it'd be called.
The Mulatto's paradox. Dog, we got some fucking names for some shit, dog. The Mulatto's paradox. What would be your thing, bro? What would be your thing that you get out of it, Jamel?
Oh, I'd say I eat my potato salad with cranberries and raisins in it.
I don't know, man. I see some people do some bad.
No, you don't. No, you don't. That's a lie.
I want to say, no, I don't know.
Here's the thing. I'm
Put
fat.
some pecans in there to balance it out.
They might believe it. Here's the thing. I'm fat. So it's just like, the fat nigga might like raisins and cranberries in the potato salad.
I think
that's like the same fruit.
Raisins and cranberries, they're different. Cranberries are a little different than raisins. Cranberries are a little more tart.
Like they're just sugarless raisins. That's all.
Cranberries are a little more tart. So I'm like, I will smash. If they got some with me, I will happily double scoop. I will eat that shit like it's anime.
I think we would all eat the oxtail or the ox balls from Fear Factor if it meant getting out alive. But
I would,
for real, dog. That's
I don't trust JT. I don't trust that you can fake it for that long. I don't trust that you can let Johnny stay at the forefront for so long. I feel like it would be like my man and Get Out, like Lakeith, and your blackness would just come through and then be like, gotta kill this nigga.
Exactly. I want to say, like, I wouldn't even give it like the Lakeith aspect of it. I would just think that like his white side would be like, no, I'm a real G. His white side would have to justify. JT white side is like your boy off of fucking barbershop.
Malibu's Most Wanted.
No, I'm black. I'm blacker than you.
Isaac. My fly ass girl, my fly ass rider, and my clothes.
JT will completely be like your boy Isaac off a barbershop.
If you take all of like everybody and mix them up, that was a lot of that was some facets in there, a lot of them.
Yeah, so I don't know. I kind of agree with you, Jamel, on that one. I think that his white side would take over.
JT would be the first one to go because Johnny would try and speak for him, but then JT would come through and be like, "Shut your ass up, Johnny."
There is no Johnny. There is no Johnny.
I'm gonna say we got a name for JT's white side. It's called Johnny.
No, it's not. It's not. Guys. It's really not. See, the problem is as a registered African, it's all baked together, and so it's not a side. It's like a yin and yang, a balance. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like when you stepping forward, you got to make sure that you got the other half to lean on. You know what I mean? You got to use some of that creativity. You got to use some of these, skills to roast somebody or whatever. You got to have that balance between them. Because depending on who you're talking to, you might not be able to use any of your references.
Yes.
And then that shows you how, one-sided you really are.
Okay.
is the references.
Okay. So, all right, let's move on to the next one. It's going to be a short one.
Sing the Friends theme song. That'd be another one that I just do.
What?
Shit, I can't even do that, homie.
Sing the Friends theme song.
I would
kill that. Oh, I'm alive. Yeah, that's my new. That's mine.
For you.
I think he'll sing it. But see, I think that this would make me get killed quick on that part. Is the fact that if you say sing the Friends theme song, usually my first response is I would say like not that kind of question, but like I only grew up with the real Friends, which is Living Single.
Your love life's DOA.
Oh, hell no, man. Let's move on to the next question. No, you don't even do that to yourself.
I'm just mad because I'm alive.
Jamel, what would get you kicked out? What would get you got in the blackening though? What would get you killed?
Ooh. I mean the name. Like if you're going on the name thing, my name is Jamel Marquise. So as soon as they hear that second one, they're like, well, you're dead.
Uniquely African American.
Dog. I'm telling you, my name would get me fucking killed, especially if you're from Louisiana and you know.
I thought you said your name would keep you alive.
Nah, man. Oh yeah, my name would keep get me killed. Yeah. Not killed. Keep me alive. Keep me alive.
If you would have been born in the North, you would have been called something completely different. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I would have been.
They gave you a pass. They give you a document pass.
Yeah, dog. Bruh, as a person who grew up with Dontrells and like Lafayette's and like Marquise spelled with a Q, like
yeah. And when it hasn't been your day, your week, a month, or even your years.
Stop it. All right.
I'll be there for you. Move on.
All right.
I'm trying to, but you cut me off. All right. So the next thing is actually based off of a
image. He got a mic.
Is so this is based off of a meme that you put up, man. I believe it was Jamel, and it was about Zemo, and we were talking about the Wakandans. So I didn't think about this, man, but the whole purpose was Zemo kills the daddy, Namor kills the mama, and the killers got to live to tell about it. Wakanda got a punk card pulled twice. So I need some clarification for you guys. Do you think that the Wakandans are truly like the weaker links when it comes to the MCU because they allow people to get over on them? Essentially, I'm gonna start off this question with Jamal.
Fascinating. Here's the thing. I don't necessarily agree with the meme. Just for clarification, I just found it funny the way that someone put that out there. But I do think the Wakandans can show a little more force every once in a while. I think where we started off in Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, with Angela Bassett having Adora do their thing, handle their business in the beginning, and basically put all of France's business out there. I love that. I want them to do that more. I want more of that. Problem is that it is, of course, a Disney property, a Marvel property, and they only can do so much, and it's a shame. In the comics, they go a lot harder. They would be a lot more forceful. And I do get why Namor is still alive, because you want to, and I think JT might have pointed this out, is that you want the oppressed groups, maybe they can band together to like be a united front. But I'm just saying, Zemo, he wasn't about shit. You could have quick claws to the neck, kill him, and that would have saved us a lot of heartache. But I don't necessarily think the Wakandans always show the force that they should. I think they need to go a little bit harder.
JT?
So as I said before, I think that the Dora Milaje would have waxed Baron Zemo immediately, like on sight, just spear to the neck, nobody else hit, bam, just gone, wiped him off the planet. And the fact that they couldn't, I wrote a whole better like interaction in my brain, talking about if they're in a room with Zemo, they just throw the spear in there, block off the door, Zemo bounces off the spear, talks about thanks for the weapon, tries to pull that mug out the wall and can't, and just ducks under it to run away into the secret tunnel. Like these little things would, these details would show more of Wakanda's ability while they're failing. You saw that it could have been really bad for Zemo. You saw how stuck in the wall. You saw how effective they were, even though they ultimately failed. You saw how it was by narrower margins than they're given credit for. And we don't get that kind of detail in a lot of these movies because they're just not there.
So cool, because like the reason why I kind of felt like this was a reflection on like true life, and because one of the most common things was that Black people are easily able to forgive people even when they get kind of kicked down multiple times, and so that was kind of like the message I think was kind of translated after I watched this. It's because you see that the royal family basically forgave them for killing those people off, right? So that's the same thing that kind of happens in politics, right? I was just talking to a person who said that they was going to become a new listener for the podcast. Big shout outs, by the way, if you are listening to this or you listen to this podcast later. Bravo, man, you did a great job. So shout out to Leafly, man. Leaf, let's be Shangs. I can't wait to be a Shang with you again, son. I can't wait to be a Shang with you again as well. So that's a big shout out to the announcement of Mortal Kombat 12. But the conversation was that like about Joe Biden. Joe Biden said that you're not black if you don't vote for me, right? And we forgave that dude and made sure that we voted him into presidency with the hardness versus Donald Trump. Now I get the purpose of Trump, but there felt like there was no I guess the easiest way to say it, there was no backlash for that. There was no consequences for that. But then we turn around and we talk about a situation, which is going to be to my next question about Don Lemon. But that kind of goes into that same context, is the fact that we felt like we had to get more consequences for ourselves for things that we did versus a person like Joe Biden. Do you guys agree with that at all?
Let me ask you this question.
Okay.
Do you agree with Joe Biden?
No.
I do. I don't think he should say it, but damn it, he's right.
If you vote for, but I'm saying though, go ahead. All right.
What it is, I think he's saying you don't get to struggle if you don't vote for me. You don't know what's going on. You really don't get it.
Okay.
And I mean, to some measure, he is correct. You know what I'm saying? It's, you know, why all conservative dudes look the same? You know, why do they really hit a stereotype?
Fair enough.
And you know, I think that there's people like Neil deGrasse Tyson who say, I don't want to be black, basically. You know, that's just what color my skin is. I don't want to think about it anymore. And, you know, you miss a little bit of that because that's your identity. And so you are willingly giving that up.
Yeah. So, Jamel, man, I'm not going to ask you this other question. And I don't think that we brought up this question, but Don Lemon is now put on to, he's on his final notice for working with NBC and I'm sorry, no, CNN. And it's all because of the fact that he said a politician was not in her prime. So this is a 56-year-old man that we were talking about. But when I relate that back to that situation with that Zemo thing, when we look at the stuff for the MCU, do you feel like any other character in the MCU has to deal with their consequences and just basically say forgive and forget about those situations like the Wakandans had? That's my simple question.
Didn't Tony have to almost forgive and forget with Bucky when it came to that final battle where he had to ignore wanting to kill the person who killed his mama because, hey, we got to stop this onslaught, this invasion. Thor kind of forgave and forgot with Loki, even though Loki was on some fuck shit for a lot of the movies with the lion, the deceit. He forgave and forgot by the time we got to Ragnarok.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a few. Like Tony's probably the most prominent one, with him having to look past his mother and father's murderer because they're on the same side.
Yeah.
And it's hard. Honestly, it's hard to sympathize with the Bucky situation because it's like, yeah, he was brainwashed, but at the end of the day, nigga, you killed my mama and my daddy. I kind of should still be mad at you. Like I would have at least liked if Iron Man, real quick, as soon as Bucky came through the hole, he kind of flew in and just at least just got one good one in on Bucky. Rock this shit. Just at least once be like, all right, I'm gonna let it go, but I gotta break your jaw. Nah, you don't need your jaw to shoot. Like you don't need your jaw. You need these and you need that metal arm. You don't need your jaw to shoot. I'm breaking your jaw and I'll probably crack your skull just a little bit. Just a little satisfaction before we stop this invasion. But there were a couple of forgive and forget.
Fair enough. Okay. I was about to say I couldn't think of anybody else after I seen that. I was just like, man, who the fuck who did a forgive and forget like that? Now the next thing is there's an investigation. Come to find out, the investigation is saying that most likely COVID-19 was actually released through a actual lab in Wuhan. Uh, and Jon Stewart goes on to Stephen Colbert's show and basically kind of makes a joke about this. This is also in the same week that Woody Harrelson says that the perfect movie is that people were being forced to wear masks and stuff like that. I'm gonna ask you another question, bro. The weirdest fucking thing is that these guys got to have this conversation. Woody Harrelson felt like he didn't get no consequences. Jon Stewart felt like he got consequences for got kind of fired back on because of the fact that he was saying that like this is Wuhan lab. This was a lab created virus. So do you think that this is only going to strengthen people like Joe Rogan's ideas and people like Aaron Rodgers and stuff like that? Do you think that that's going to strengthen those concepts and those beliefs of those young fellas over there? I'm going to start off with you, JT.
Young.
Do I believe that the virus coming out of the lab in Wuhan, we've had this information for years. This is not a new revelation. So I'm sorry, you this ain't breaking. We've known this shit. The problem was Trump touted it out and tried to basically make it racial. Oh, it's the Chinese virus. It wasn't all the Chinese people. It was Wuhan.
Yeah.
But I still bet you I still suspect that they was making it for Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me at all that they tried to get this mess, and it was way more transmissible than they had thought. It makes sense to me, but that's, one thing is you can't trust the Chinese government.
That's fucking wild.
Yeah, because like the whole if they're trying, they basically have like an alternative internet, y'all. So like their people can go in and they can only access certain information. So they have been 1984 these people, and we can't let that happen in America. And that's one of the reasons you have to let information be free.
Fair.
But when you take the location of the virus and you start making it racial, oh well, these Pakistani dudes flew planes into the building. Now all Pakistanis look like you that guy. No, you cannot do this. This is a generalized thing, and it creates racism when that happens. And so but it sounded like somebody to blame, So I mean, people can be stupid about this stuff, but there is active disinformation being sown in our country to get us to not be on the same page. And so you got people who think, oh, well, the germs stay on your face. You can get sick by wearing a mask, and to folks who think that, the vaccine was always about control and seeing who would get a jab, as opposed to like, there's actually a virus going out. Oh, it's fake. No, it's not. People have died, so like, whose report are you gonna believe?
That's true. So Jamel, we done laughed, we done cried, we didn't had this, we didn't went through I say what I say with this week, man. Every week we go to our East Side review with Jamel Watson. We picked a movie. We were going with the themes for Women's History Month. Jamel, tell me, what is this week's movie for the East Side Review this week, bud?
All right. Movie for the week is Hidden Figures from 2016. It is loosely based on a novel by the same name by a woman by the name of Margot Lee. I'm going to butcher her name, Sitterfield. She wrote this book, and it is around 3 African-American mathematicians who worked for NASA during the height of the space race during the 50s and 60s. The primary figures are Katherine Goebel Johnson, played by Taraji P. Henson, Dorothy Vaughan, played by Octavia Spencer, and Mary Jackson, played by Janelle Monáe. In fact, this is one of Janelle Monáe's earliest roles in a starring capacity. This is her first major film role that she has. She had a few smaller TV credits up to this point, a few voice roles, but in the same year she did this and Moonlight, so pretty big year for her. kind of a breakout year in a lot of ways. Also rounding out the cast, we got Mahershala Ali. We have Jim Parsons, Kirsten Dunst, Aldous Hodge, Lynn Powell, and Kevin Costner. As I said, the movie takes place during the 1960s and the lead up to the early launches of the Mercury space program and eventually the Apollo space program in the future, with getting Americans into space. Some pretty good performances, especially by the three primary leads. I think of the three leads, in my personal opinion, Janelle Monáe kind of stood out to me in a lot of ways with her attitude, but I overall think this movie was pretty damn enjoyable. Now, let's start diving into it. We're going to kick things off with JT. Prior to seeing this movie, did you know anything about these three figures, or kind of the role that Black women played during the whole space race and the whole journey to getting to the moon? Still there, JT?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why you bother with these screens, dog. I just get up. We ain't gonna hear it on Spotify. Or see it rather.
All right. So did you hear the question again? No, question again was before seeing this movie, did you have any knowledge or any like inkling of the role that these women played, or the role in general that Black women played during the whole space race thing?
Yes, through history, I had read about this lady. I was homeschooled, you know what I'm saying. So it was cycled around every Black History Month or so. You know, we had a little info on that, but not a lot. Like watching the movie is but I mean, you know, it's a bit misleading how they all start together. And that was probably the main thing that no, dog, no, the answer is no.
All right, what about you, History? Did you have any inkling on these women in the lead up to what they were doing in their role at NASA?
No, not specifically NASA, but I knew that for some other specific roles out there. I think that Lax was the other one, but that's medical and stuff like that. That's not NASA. I didn't know.
We're talking about these women history. See, every week you're taking us. We're trying to get to New Orleans, but you're taking us the long way around. No, keep going, bro. Keep going. I apologize. Keep going. Let's move forward.
Get salty.
Oh, are we getting salty?
Come on with it. No, don't hold it, bro.
All right, let's
bad for your face. That'll cause wrinkles. Don't hold it.
That happened. Y'all did two things in less than like 5 fucking minutes. Look, you with these damn seeds, and then also you with that damn smart ass shit. You didn't listen to the damn statement I just made. I said I knew that they had other famous women in science. I didn't know that they did anything in NASA. That did not take you to no different other place and direction. You know what? I told you I was gonna squash some shit. I ain't bringing those shit back. But I'm just saying that was a dumbass question and that was a dumbass statement. I'm leaving it alone. Go for next week. That was dumb. That was dumb.
So touchy.
All right. Anyway, let's start off with JT. The historical setting back in the 1960s here in Hampton, Virginia. How did you feel that the movie itself kind of displayed and kind of dove into those issues of racism, not just within NASA, but in kind of the community as a whole, for the time that we did get to see the women, you know, interacting during their daily lives?
Repeat that question.
Doug, I heard and he was asking me the question. So NASA, what they did do a good job of is painting the amount of painting racism. Okay, so like it was there and they had to deal with it. Now, most of the racism was just kind of like, ew, you know, and that was it. It was no further. But like, racism was quite active. You have to remember this. Racism was active in America and still is very much so. And part of the way is in the passive ways. It's actively trying to change laws to make it passive to be racist. And so they talk about the structure of, you know, being segregated, but did you tell him about that, Jamel?
Oh, the segregation stuff.
Yeah, let's talk
cool.
about that right quick.
Oh, let's dive into it. Yeah. So turns out there are a few things historically. What's that history?
I was saying you forgot the words. It's okay. It's all right. Thank you for JT for bringing us back on track. I'll joke with it. It's okay.
Segregation.
Segregation.
This is going into the podcast history. The annals of history are being recorded with this gross pettiness.
Okay. So, film set at the Langley Research Center depicts segregated facilities. Turns out, in reality, things were segregated. There was some racism going on, but not as much as you would think at NASA. So let's actually get into some of the historical, what's the most friendly way to put it? Fluffing, the most historic, you say it's loosely based. So they really leaning into that loosely based thing. And let's actually tie this into a character that actually did not exist in real life. That is, it feels weird diving into this white man before we talk about any of the black women, but fuck it, we already here. Kevin Costner's character, Al Harrison, did not exist in real life. He is a composite. And one of the most shock, yay, end of racism moments in the movie, the moment where he went and chopped down that sign, didn't happen in real life. It actually did not happen. Turns out, Katherine Johnson. Turns out Katherine Johnson, for a while during her time there, would just use the white bathroom, the whites only bathrooms. And she said, hey, didn't know, couldn't find ones that said colored only, didn't know that this was a whites only. She went in, there was an issue that came up, and then they kind of moved past it basically quickly. In fact, Katherine has even said she knew racism and segregation, that shit existed. She didn't feel it. She knew it was there, but she didn't feel that. And so, how do you feel about that particular moment? Because I remember in the theater when I saw it, that was kind of one of those big, yay, clap, the white man did some good moments. But history, how did you feel? Now knowing historically that actually didn't happen, how do you feel that moment plays into the movie?
So I didn't get that yay moment at the theaters because I did not want to see this movie because I found out about the production prior and that it was a lot of fabricated. But when I seen the scene for the first time last night, it felt like this was the most bullshitty ass bullshit that I've ever seen, man. Like the way that you try to sell me on this character who's fake, literally knocking down walls, breaking down barriers to make sure that a black woman goes pee instead of having to walk a half a mile down the street. They really emphasized it, and he even had a Pharrell Johnson song talking about how she's tired of running, and to know that now that she did not do that running, it's wow.
Really quickly, history. It's Pharrell Williams, not Pharrell Johnson.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Pharrell Williams, my cousin, twice removed. Pharrell Williams, singing this song because they emphasized that song multiple times, and when she ran, and even at the final scene. So when they knocked down that sign, it was so fucking wild that they really tried to make this man look like a superhero. But then you flash back a little bit and they say the first thing is don't talk to the man, and Kevin Costner spoke the whole time. So I don't think that character would give a fuck that she was using a separate coffee pot. I would not give that character would give a
Oh.
fuck that she
We'll
would
get to that in a second.
but use the same bathrooms. So yeah, I thought that was the most bullshitty ass like scene ever.
Speaking of the coffee pot, yeah, that also didn't happen in real life. Not in the book, not in real life. It was something the movie made up. Katherine Johnson, her workplace, didn't happen in real life. Cool. JT.
They weren't such jerks.
Yeah, they were
Right.
jerks. They were white. They were white, and it was the 60s. It wouldn't have taken much. They were nerds and jerks. You know what?
I'll tell you, if you can run the numbers with them, they're like, you're one of us. Like, you're good. You're in. You know,
with them being,
they would have such dramatic. But so what the director and everybody was trying to do was make a good movie, but they weren't trying to tell it like it is. You know, and so like when you realize you've been sold a bill of goods and it really wasn't so awe-inspiring, the movie don't win Oscars. You know what I'm saying? So it's that they was really trying to get some gold statuettes. That's all I'm saying, bro.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So yeah. I'm kind of glad you went into that because we have another kind of a little point of contention in the movie. So another big part of the movie was Dorothy Vaughan not being a supervisor of the computer area in NASA. Turns out that's inaccurate. She was the supervisor of that part of their department as early in 1949, 11 years before this movie came. 12 years before this movie came out. She was the first Black supervisor for the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics and was one of the few female supervisors as well. And then in 1958, when NACA became NASA, the segregated facilities, including the computing office where they worked, were abolished. So, again, white people were jerks back then, but turns out the nerds at NASA were a little bit more progressive. Now, we've got some other things to get into with historical inaccuracies, but I want to give praise to the performances. So,
well, before you go there, can I ask a weird question real fast? Do you feel like, based off of the information, like before we get to the portion of it, right? Do you feel like those characters, because of the fact that they added these parts, like the barrier of the coffee pot, the barrier of the police, and so on and so forth, did you feel like throughout this part of the time of the movie that, damn, the reason why we was losing the space race is because of racism? Do you feel like that? Or did you kind of get that feeling for a while? You don't have no sound.
I think you're muted, JT.
Yeah. That's the reason why America's behind in a lot of ways. They still paying the price for that. And America hasn't fixed its roots and its corrupt problems. So it's going to keep suffering from this. It's going to keep hemorrhaging opportunity, because when we get unified, we can get things done. And when you see the lack of work, and just how like she probably could have solved some stuff from day one if she would have just had all of the numbers right in front of her to begin with.
Yeah.
How much stuff are you keeping from getting done because you're not sharing?
What about you, Jamal?
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better myself.
Yeah,
hit the nail on the head. Racism, and you see it in every aspect of American society, because it's like, let's just take something that's not as important, but sports, particularly college sports, and integration. If you really study the history of college football, you'll find some surprising national champions because schools were not segregated up north. The University of Minnesota, not considered a college power now, they won some national championships back in the day before these schools in the South really integrated. And it wasn't until someone realized, oh, these Black people are really good at the running, the jumping, and everything, and all the other decision making. They're really good at this. Maybe we should stop being stupid and start welcoming them. And it's just you don't know what you're cutting yourself off from if you decide to base things on ignorance. being racist or being sexist. It's just like, oh, you're cutting yourself off from a lot of knowledge and progress because you want to be ignorant.
Gotcha, man. Yeah, I just felt
I
like
actually want to stick on this. Because I do find it funny if you look back on history. It is amazing how petty it feels, the space race feels between the US and the Soviets. It was basically an extended dick measuring piston contest. Like, we can't have the Soviets get one up on us. And it was just like, wow, that's so, it's hilarious. One, because it's a bunch of men doing it. You know how men is. Niggas, like, not niggas. Men will get to the point where just like, oh, let's just one up each other for no fucking reason over the dumbest shit. But it's just like, oh, these nerds are having a pissing contest with the Russian nerds, and I find that funny. Like, oh,
but
pettiness.
It's how things get done. I'm just now I know what the bar is. Nobody knew what the bar was to begin with. They put somebody in the atmosphere. All of a sudden, okay, we know what the bar is. Let's see if we can beat that. And so anytime you define a level of something, if it can be measured, it can be improved.
Okay.
Fantastic point. History, you were about to say something?
No, I just was agreeing. Acknowledging what he was saying. Yeah.
All right, so now let's actually...
Jamel, how do you feel that the data was represented in this movie? Was it nerdy enough for you?
I mean, math was never my strong suit, so anything that advanced is gonna seem nerdy to me. And it also, credit to Taraji, and this leads me into let's actually praising the performances of the actresses. Taraji, she came off like she knew what the hell she was talking about. You know, she had to, of course, you know, the nerd push up the glass thing. She made sure to hit that every once in a while because, you know, you gotta show you're a nerd because you're pushing up your glasses. But I think the science talk, all of that, it came off very well, in my opinion. They actually had a mathematics professor from Morehouse, Rudy L. Horn, was the on-set mathematician to kind of make sure they were getting stuff as correct as possible on screen. So I feel it was nerdy and complex enough for the average person, especially the average American person. Because again, Americans, we ain't the smartest. We ain't the smartest of the races.
I disagree, man. I disagree. I think that like they did a good job by showing off that she could write on the chalkboard. I felt like they had a really good job of showing it really felt like exposition that really was for the script, not for reality of what the actual thing was going to happen. And my biggest offender was the writing for Janelle Monáe's character, Monica. I felt like
that was my. You mean Mary?
Mary. I'm sorry, Mary.
Where'd you get? Okay, time out. Where'd you get Monica from?
Nigga, I have dyslexia, dog. So sometimes Mary is gonna be Monica, Brandy is gonna be Norwood. The dog, I have. That's not.
There are two letters that are similar in Mary and Monica. You know what? Never mind.
Right. I say names fucked up. I said the right person, that right actress. You knew who I was talking about. You went down the same road as me. Just because the fact that the car was a square doesn't mean that.
Say the name right though. That's all I'm saying.
I'm saying Janelle Monáe, Monica, Mary, whatever her name is. You get the point of the person. Janelle Monáe's character. It felt like when she had her point to be able to show her intelligence. It was quickly right in front of the engineer, and we were like, cool. But we seen her be ditzy about like, oh, she can't get up the chute in the middle of the air tunnel, the wind tunnel. We seen her only be
that was a dumb scene.
That was a very dumb scene. And it felt like also on top of that, her biggest.
It take a rocket scientist to know you probably shouldn't have been there right before the test, or wear flats. Oh, never mind. This is the 60s. Women weren't allowed to wear flats back then.
But like for instance, if let's say she would have left something practical in there, like a binder of notes, you know what I'm saying? And then she, oh no, I left my binder in there, and it starts smacking up against the capsule in there. And her boss like grilled her for a second, like, that was your binder? That was yours? Well, the good news is those numbers were junk anyway, because obviously it didn't work, And so you just kind of like build that tension up for a second. She knew she effed up. He knew she effed up. And then, she got a little grace. And I think that would have built that little managing character just a hair more, But like these little things about how people choose to be extra decent sometimes seem like they go too far. You know what I mean? It takes a whole lot of white people, it takes a whole lot of any people to just keep saying, you can keep going. And that's, I think, what you didn't really get out of this movie. And I kind of would like to see a little bit of that, because I don't know, but like when you're the only black person in the room, you need a little cheering on sometimes. And like it's if you're not black, you don't know what it feels. If you're not a minority, you don't know what it feels like most of the time. It's like it's not a feeling of being qualified. Everybody's been in a room, they're like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be here, just because of the way people are talking. But if those folks are just treating you like a human, you can learn anything you need to learn. But when you get blocked from being treated like a human, oh, that's when you have real problems. And so it felt like they were trying to manufacture problems where none really were. And especially with that shoot thing, that was just was really pointless to me, because didn't nothing come of it. No shoe is worth your life. Did the character really not know that? Did she not get that? Did she not say, hold on? Oh, they're not going to hold on for me or whatever. I better hurry. None of this stuff. It was ultimately a fruitless scene to me. That little part of it could have just been.
Well, what makes it
ignored.
more fruitless is the fact of like the shoe never moved.
Right.
The shoe never went anywhere. So how strong is this wind tunnel? It depreciated the value of that moment. So that means
and
that
she didn't even get it back. Like she didn't make a point to go get it back either.
Yeah. So it felt like it was kind of like pointless, that scene itself. But the next thing we get, realistically, we get
we got to move forward with some other aspects. Since we're on her, let's get to Janelle Monáe's performance, because she, of the three primaries, she has the least experience as far as acting goes. What did y'all think of her, how she brought Mary Jackson to life, and her relationship with her husband? Because I found that interesting how they portrayed that in the film as well. We'll start off with you, History.
That's kind of my point, is that's what it felt like her character, the purpose of her character really was to the whole storyline, is that she's the one that hooked up Jim Johnson and her and Catherine's character together. That's it really felt like they were in a relationship at the very beginning, and now we got to figure out how we got to convince Jim Johnson and Catherine to be together. So that's what it felt like for Janelle Monáe. Her character was that she was the hookup person. That's it. And then we got a little small expo to show that, oh, this character is also smart too.
All right, what about you, JT? What did you think of Janelle Monáe in this role, particularly?
She was okay. Her whole thing was breaking the school barrier, essentially. And so we had words before the show about how accurate that old courtroom scene was. But it's entirely likely that that's what she ended up having to do, was go to this court and just say, hey, like, this should be okay. Can I go? Well, yeah, I guess. Ain't nothing saying you can't. So yeah, go ahead. And then, when she get there, she was immediately, treated with minimal resistance that she quickly overcame with a little quick wit. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like they were making a character out of the real person. You know what I'm saying? I agree. You get what I mean?
Yeah, I agree, and that's why I say I think that's why I felt like it was kind of soulless, and they didn't know what to do with her character, because she probably really didn't have that much like resistance as much as they're trying to put out there. I'm not saying that racism was voided and everything like that. But to know that, like, some of the stuff that was going on with it, it felt like they had to kind of like just insert racism here, insert fucked up shit here for her. So her character really felt like she had no purpose in the grand scheme of like the actual storytelling of this part. Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying. The only thing that her character really did was hook up Jim Johnson and Captain Goebel.
I can see. I definitely can see that. I think herself, she did a good job, but I do think the movie kind of shortchanged Mary in comparison to both Catherine and Dorothy. Speaking of Dorothy, and let's go on to another character that actually didn't exist. Kirsten Dunst's character, Vivian Mitchell. Just really quickly, neither Kirsten Dunst's character or Jim Parsons' character. So Jim Parsons' Stafford and Kirsten Dunst's character by the name of Vivian Mitchell, neither existed in real life. They were sort of stand-ins for people of the time who would probably have those views. What did y'all think of the I want to make sure that I get it exactly correct. So yeah. So let me make sure that I'm correct with it. Vivian Mitchell, Kirsten Dunst, and Paul Stafford, Jim Parsons, were composites of several members of their respective teams within NASA, and of course, people to reflect the social views and attitudes of the time. What did y'all think of Kirsten Dunst and especially her interactions with Dorothy Vaughan? Because I found those also some very interesting. Like, it felt like, I don't want to put no thoughts in your head. JT, we don't start off with you. How did you feel about the Vivian Dorothy clashes?
So you got to remember, as a amalgamation, as a boiling pot, as a compilation of all the different people, they were really trying to reach for somebody who like is ambivalent. Like, they don't really care. They're just like, you're there. I don't wish you no ills, but like not actively trying to help. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
Do you feel like y'all feel like she achieved that? Because I feel like her just absolute lukewarmness to Octavia Spencer's character's presence was felt. So you think she did that?
Yeah.
What's
I'm
up,
sorry. Yeah, no, you kind of fucking said like what I was trying to put my finger on what it was. And it definitely comes off as that West Midwest fucking nice. I guess that's the easiest way to say it. For a while, it felt like I'm going to kind of stump on your ideas just a little bit, just to make you quiet, but not necessarily in the context of like I'm trying to break you right now of your fucking habits. So like, you think about like Jim Parson, like he went like, oh, calculators are not allowed to get published, and he just took the paper and then went off with our notes. Like, that was not really trying to be soul crushing, but it became soul crushing towards the end because he kept saying no after a while, right? But the initial reaction was not that. The initial reaction for Kirsten Dunst's character, you can't be a supervisor. Kind of like that. Nobody just thought about you being a supervisor. It really wasn't trying to be soul crushing. It was just nonchalant, like passive shit the whole time. So I felt like it wasn't a threat.
What they could have done, in my opinion, was they could have stretched the timeline out, because they really made it seem like this was about a 2-year span. And I think they could have told the story. They could have had that bathroom smashing scene. It just happened at the beginning, and things were changing, but that doesn't mean we have to like it. So there's more grumbling than anything else.
Yeah.
Because some grumblings are very much so in our history. Even though the laws have been removed that were directly racist, there's still some grumbling in there.
Yeah.
Some ibiscation. You know what I mean? So I think that to really just stretch the story out over some time, and then you could have the characters meet each other organically. Oh, good to see another, woman of color here on, in NASA. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then you could have seen, how they went from event to event. That kind of could have been interesting. and you just see her deal and her deal. But the movie made them out to be, we're three best friends that anyone can have. We carpool to work every day, and it just felt way too buddy movie for what it really was.
Yeah,
and now it's. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I was gonna say because like they did separate the fuck out of them throughout the whole time.
No. So speaking of the carpool, that's also something that was adjusted in the movie. Katherine Johnson didn't necessarily carpool with Dorothy and Mary. She carpooled with another woman by the name of Eunice Smith, who was also a 9-year veteran of the West Area Computers. She joined NASA by the time that Johnson was there. She was there for 9. She was already there for 9 years, and they knew each other from their neighborhood and also from their church and sorority. So Eunice, poor Eunice, she doesn't get talked about, but yeah, they actually didn't carpool. They may have, but they made this movie, they kind of made it seem like they were, linked up from the beginning. So I find that fascinating as well. For me, when it comes to the Kirsten Dunst character, the Mitchell character, it feels like she would be one of them people who would say, I don't see race types. One of those below the surface level.
She's been there for 15 years and knew where the colored bathrooms was.
Yeah. It feels like y'all know Get Out and Get Out. When the dad says, I'd have voted for Obama for a third. She feels like one of those type of people, like one of those blue state liberals who isn't aggressively racist, but they voted for Obama a couple times, and then all of a sudden, this Trump fella is really appealing. So that, again, I don't think she probably would have said nigga, but I do think she put a hard ED on color. Like she put a hard ED on the color. That's how I feel about her. And I think her interactions with Dorothy, who was the most senior of the women, I thought that was interesting because Dorothy is clearly, has a few years on Vivian, and it kind of does, it annoys me seeing in movies and seeing in real life older Black people calling younger white people sir and ma'am. There's some, that's something that always irks me a bit. But let's stay on Dorothy. History, what'd you think of Octavia Spencer in this?
I'm actually going to generalize what I did that I said for this character and for the whole movie itself. I felt like this movie would have been a better one if this was multiple movies and it was a series like Dorothy Vaughan, right? That would have been a better movie because then we would have had the computers and understanding what the West Computing Office was. Octavia Spencer did as amazing as what she could possibly do for that plot part. But I also want to say this movie came out the same year as The Help, right?
No, this is past The Help. The Help was in like 2010 or something like that.
You sure?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
The Help was 2011.
2011.
So she regressed? In that
Hidden Figures is 2016.
So what I mean by that is that like how dynamic she was and The Help was significantly more versus this one. This one I felt like
a significantly different character. She was a nerd, bruh. I think one of the things that I
we got to be careful with that. We got to be careful with that.
Why?
Because there's been plenty of nerds who like the idea of like, yeah, she's playing a nerd. That is basically saying that she doesn't have no ability to kind of like set a boundary. And I get that she's in that space, but this is also the same woman who took a screwdriver to a car battery. This is the same woman who basically was being bound and determined to make sure that her computers were pretty good. Like, but I felt like her character was kind of like what Jamel was saying, is that she was doing the sir ma'am thing. I think the sir ma'am thing is only offensive when the fact of that it's in the context of submissiveness, and there was no backbone to her character for a while, and there was a indecisiveness to her character. She went in bitching about the supervisor role, but then she got mad at Mary's character for the fact about the school and engineering thing. So, which one are you? Are you going to be a supporter, or are you going to be a person who just kind of just be like, well, I'm going to let the system just do what
If
it's
she
going to
got the
do?
logic to be mad about one of those, she should have the logic to be mad about the rest.
Kind of, yeah. So it
I
felt
see what
like
you're
she didn't
saying.
have.
But the difference is it's not personal at that point in time. So when you talking about all this other stuff, those are their problems. You know what I mean? I think they did a good job with Octavia's character as far as motherhood goes, and how she had to bring her kids around and stuff, because
Okay.
sometimes, I mean, I've seen that. I've been at the library and seen that. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
I think there was some realism in there. But were you waiting for her to like step up to Whitey too, or like? Was that what she was kind of waiting on? Because the way she did was through her actions. She went to the library and she handled her business. She got that book. She read that book, and she went in and
Took
she
that book.
applied that. And
And she
then
took that book,
she
yeah.
got she demonstrated the fruit of her labor in such a way. So I find it difficult to be mad about that character arc, because she knew to come up and wasn't going to be yelling at somebody like Taraji did.
Well, I guess my dilemma is with this arc is the fact that I felt like both Octavia Spencer's character as well as Janelle Monáe's character didn't have the time. I felt like we did have a whole pretty much more than 2/3 of this movie be about Katherine Johnson. And I felt like that depreciated the actual what this character's drive was. Like the only thing we got was kind of like it almost felt like a sidebar story. You remember Ice
Like, we
Age?
should have just made a Katherine Johnson story and
Yeah,
featured these
that's what
women.
I said. It
Oh,
should have been Hidden Figures, Katherine
tell you my
Johnson.
thing at the lunch counter or whatever. I met these wonderful women, her and her,
Yeah.
and they told me their stories. I was
So
here in 1948, and
yeah,
they had a colored bathroom and wouldn't give me a manager position. Now all of a sudden the movie makes sense.
my best example for Janelle Monáe's and Octavia Spencer's character is, you remember the movie Ice Age? The squirrel from Ice Age. That's what it felt. Yeah, that's what it felt like Janelle Monáe character was and Octavia Spencer character was for a lot of portions of this movie.
They weren't terribly well defined.
Yes.
They were defined by their work, but we didn't really see that work ethic.
Yes.
You know what I think that was the difference. We see Taraji up there scribbling the numbers and stuff, but we saw Octavia Spencer mess with the computer once, and then in the next scene she was in there, it was working fine. So it wasn't like she was consulting her manual and nothing. I've been in here every day for 2 weeks making sure this is working right. Y'all done keep every time I come up in here every morning, somebody undoes half my work. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Like this, yeah. So there is a cheapness, a tokenismness to their labor. Yes, I agree. I feel it.
I can give you that. I think Octavia herself did well with what she was given, because she's a really good actress, but she wasn't given much. And I think that's a fair assessment for both her and for Janelle Monáe. Honestly, like Algis Hodge, the husband who played Mary Jackson's husband, who's also a good actor, he was kind of underserved. Like the only thing we know is that he ain't trusting crackers, and he was on some. I would have loved to have gotten a little bit more of their dynamic person, but let's get to her. Katherine Johnson, played by Taraji P. Henson. A bulk of the movie does focus on her, and I think a cynical part of it is because, well, Katherine was the only one who was still living by this time. Now, all three women did live very long lives. They all got to see, they all got their flowers by the time that they passed. Mary Jackson passed in 2005 at the age of 83. Dorothy Vaughan passed at the age of 98 in 2008. And Katherine Johnson made it to 101 years old, passing in February 2020. First off, hit them with the applause because those are 3 long-lived lives. That is her husband, Jim Johnson, for 56 years. So apparently that ring that he gave her in that movie was pretty damn lucky. But yeah, what did y'all think of, since she is kind of the central figure, of Katherine Johnson and her story within the movie? We'll start off with history.
Katherine Johnson character was really good. I'm sorry.
Right, we'll go to JT then.
Yeah, well, no. Taraji P. Henson's character of Captain, like I guess interpretation of Katherine Johnson was really good. For the story that we gotten, I think that it appreciates obviously the extra stuff that we know production wise. But if we're looking for what's on screen, Katherine Johnson is amazing. I liked that person. But I also would have liked that sarcastic person that stood up to Jim Johnson the whole time. That was pretty. Why are you throwing this paper on my desk, Sheldon? Like, yes. I would have loved to hear that shit. Kind of like what JT.
That is the funniest thing. Time out. It is the funniest thing that Jim Parsons, Sheldon, is portrayed as a quasi-racist person in this. It is. That's what it is. The whole time. I saw him. I'm like,
that's not quasi.
Sheldon, she will beat your ass.
That ain't quasi. It is what it looks like, y'all. It's not quasi.
She would have beat his ass. Like, I'm just like, man, Sheldon, she would beat your ass. Shut up.
Why are you marking up all the numbers I gotta count?
Yeah, that's what I told my wife. I said, I don't like this version of Sheldon. I don't like when Sheldon gets like this.
Variant of Sheldon. This Sheldon variant is not nice.
We should take Sheldon. We can't have Sheldon go past Texas anymore. Like
that seemed like the Sheldon that the Russians got a hold of at birth, right there.
Oh my God, that's Sheldon.
That seemed like the Sheldon that never left the South.
Oh no, he did not. That's Sheldon there.
Keep going.
10 to 20 years earlier. But yeah, I just wish that I would have got some of that, man. Because you got this fake story already, you might as well make her seem like she's about to be fucking destroying the whole NASA situation. I would say this. They did a really good job by not Taraji P. Henson's character, by the guy who played John Glenn trusting Katherine Johnson.
Glenn Powell. Yeah. Just since you mentioned Glenn Powell, that actually did happen. That was a shoot. Like, she actually was the side factor. Like, John Glenn specifically said, hey, I want her to redo the calculations because the machine was a little off. However, and this is one of those things that movies do that's kind of stupid, similar to the shoe thing, it wasn't the day of the launch. That would be incredibly reckless and dumb. She had days to actually redo the calculations. It would be kind of stupid for NASA to launch a rocket at somebody like, all right, last minute, redo the calculations. But John Glenn actually did specifically say, hey, I want Katherine Johnson to review the numbers, to review the calculations. So that they actually got right.
Yeah, I absolutely like that. So that means that you established something for her character, a new type of respect and a new type of like admiration for her character. That she made a guy who seemed like he could have been like sociopathic in some ways trust her, and then you had another guy who was this astronaut completely trust her without even really being too many times in the room with her. So I just absolutely admire that part about her character, is that her work ethic was explored in the context. You can understand why those characters trusted her decision, why she got that clearance so easy, why Kevin Costner was just sitting there holding a pass, like, come on, you do this thing, I want to give a bravo to one more part, and I'm gonna pass this to JT. That door closing scene. How did you feel about that scene, JT?
Which door?
When they close the door right before the actual launch. You seen that fucking look on Katherine Johnson's face. like when they closed the door after they got the numbers and everything like that, right before Kevin Costner came out with that clearance pass. How did you feel about that scene?
Yeah, I was looking at my phone during that scene, dog. I was bored. I'll be honest with you, I was bored. The whole run over and stuff like that.
Okay.
It wasn't a half mile. It wasn't a half mile, y'all. So and I think one of the things that really take the wind out of this movie for me. Now, I can also look at the movie and enjoy it because the movie is great, but one of the things that take the wind out of the story is knowing what really happened. So I was just like, yeah, and this is all dramatic BS. And I think I was listening to one of Jamel's voice messages at that time. So
yeah,
I missed that one, Doug. I was sitting right there too.
All right, well, let's go ahead and Jamel. I'm gonna let you take back the reins on this one, man.
All right, so I think we've hit on all of the three primary actresses. JT, was there anyone else in the cast who kind of stood out to you with their performance-wise? Was there anyone else amongst the cast that you were just like, okay, I really like what they did in this one?
I like Kevin Costner. I thought he got the easy job of being, the good one, and so ultimately, I think that anytime you're in a situation like that where numbers are what matter, and you got the brain for it, like there's no problem. Everybody's gonna know you're the truth because your numbers are always right. Numbers don't lie. If you can do math, you can make a whole lot of sense in the world. And so that's, when you talk about these other things like Octavia and them, that's one of the things I'd like to see. I like Mahershala Ali. I thought he was smooth and suave, but I also didn't feel any resistance in the relationship. There was no challenges to overcome. It was a friggin' fairy tale. You know what I mean? It didn't feel real. It was too easy. There was no, no hesitation. No, oh, maybe I should open up. Let me try real hard to overcome. He was just like, here's the panties, man. You can have them. Let's go. It was awfully quick. And
it feels like it feels like it's a foreshadowing of what Blade is going to be like.
Yeah. But so anyway, then Mary's husband would be the one I would probably go with. He was the most interesting dude other than that. And yeah, I wouldn't minded more of him, but it really just felt like they wrote him in for some of it and forgot to write the rest of that movie. You know what I mean? I wonder what them deleted scenes look like on this mug, because this movie was long. It was like 2 hours and 6 minutes. So it was a pretty long runtime. Yep. And I tell you what, by the end of that movie, I was like, yeah, I could have just wrapped this last part up. We know the story, and it worked, guys, and it worked. So, yeah.
That's always the thing with historical, like with movies based on historical stuff. It's like, dog, we know the nigga gonna survive. He lived to be 95. He died the year this movie came out. He's good. He actually died a little. John Glenn died a little bit before this movie, and Katherine Johnson died 4 years after it came out. So yeah, they won. They won in the end. History. What about you? Is there anyone besides the primary cast that really stood out to you with regards to their performance, their character? What say you?
Shit. I'm gonna say the husband, Mary's husband. God, I don't even know that boy's name.
Levi Jackson. You didn't know that Mary's name wasn't mine. I don't blame you.
I'm going to say that he's the standout character, and I felt like Mary needed to have her own movie after she said to her husband, "I'm not going to have one of you don't give me another one of your slogans," because that means that he does something. Because he was forcing his kids to watch. He was forcing his kids to watch about like the bus bombing. He was like, and then he had this argument about like you would notice if you were home more. Like they had so much shit there, and I was just like, I want to see about 30 minutes of this guy. Just give me about 30 minutes of this. It just felt like they filmed their scenes in like one day and just let them go. So, but that
definitely.
I don't feel like I remember too many good actings from movies and scenes from him. So for his character to show that, it felt pretty good, and I felt like I was more interested in that scene more than anything.
I'll give you that. I think him. I think him and Mary, that's something. Like, honestly, because I didn't even mention Dorothy's husband by the name of Howard, who actually passed. He actually passed in 1955. So, yeah.
Real life or the actor? I'm sorry. I apologize.
No.
I realized my question.
No,
I realized my question. I realized my question. I realized my question. That's why I said don't worry about it. Because my original question
life,
later.
in real life, her husband Vaughn died in 1955 IRL. They actually had 6 kids, so more than what we saw in the movie. But anyway, to me, yeah, I'll give it to the husbands, Mahershala and Aldous Hodge. Kevin Costner, his Phantom character was pretty good. I actually like Glenn Powell as John Glenn. I thought he did a good job as well. So speaking of some production stuff and changes that we can make, and I think we're all kind of on the same accord. Do you guys think that this would work better, not as a movie, but maybe as like a mini series where each of the women could get like 1 to 2 1-hour episodes focused on them and their lives and their exploits? Do you think that it would serve the story and actually highlight them a little bit better?
You want to go first, JT?
There is more to be told in this story than the movie got to. And I think that the way it actually happened does need to be told in multiple parts. So what you're asking is, does the audience have patience for a mini series? Would they keep absorbing all this information? If you give a shit about Black history, the answer is always going to be yes. But, could you make it into a good movie, a good mini series? Still yes. But you also could have slapped another 25 minutes onto this one, and I would have been down to ride with it. Especially if it would have fleshed out some characters. You could have done another 15 minutes on this one. And just I know it will be a little long, but if you would have told the whole story, this would have been a historic film, for the ages. But it was so close to being a perfect. So close. On the way though, in the ballpark.
Okay.
But, yeah, history, you think the extra time would have went well?
I think the extra separate time would have been I felt like that would have been significantly better to be able to actually see separate movies. I almost would have enjoyed it if they would have kind of did something like an Eyes on a Prize, like, oh, Women's History Month. Guess what movie's coming out? Like Saw. You know how Saw came out with a movie almost every year for 7 years straight? Kind of like that for Hidden Figures. Like, okay, we got Hidden Figures. Katherine Johnson, Hidden Figures, Dorothy. Then we would have just had knocked it down where we had these unstereotypical fucking characters. The front, these people who is always kind of the background characters. We didn't know about a Katherine Johnson pretty much until this fucking movie came out. So it just I would have enjoyed this movie if it was just a Katherine Johnson movie. I would have enjoyed another movie where we talked about Mary and her plight when it came to school. If you were gonna fake a story about her with school, that felt like the story felt like when you write in a 20-page paper and then when you get to that conclusion, then you bring up another idea and you try to end that paper.
That's what it felt. Just concluding what you had just said.
That's what it felt like for the Mary Johnson character, because another idea came up when she went to school. Oh, this class was not designed for women. How did she get over that? This class is not designed for. Where's the
by
color
showing
section?
up? Yeah. By showing up. Sometimes that's 50% of all effort is just showing up.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I've got the perfect solution. So what they could have done is not release this in December of 2016. What they could have done was released it in January of 2017. Mm-hmm. Because there's a certain historical series that would have had its 40th anniversary in that year. Do y'all want to take a guess?
Was it Eyes on a Prize?
No. JT, you want to take a quick guess?
That would have been 77.
Mm-hmm.
historical series from 77. Soul Train? No, I don't know that.
I don't know, bro. Yeah.
We're talking about
is
methods of
that
transportation, rockets, trains.
no, that would have been the 40th anniversary of Roots. Roots is one of
Oh,
the most quintessential stories, one of the most quintessential miniseries that has ever been on American television. And how does it display us? Slaves and a lot of struggle. Wouldn't it have been beautiful, kind of poetic in a way, to show Black people's progress, to see on the 40th anniversary we get a month-long celebration, whether it starts in February or January, of seeing brilliant Black women, their struggles, their progress, and their accomplishments in some of the most complicated science that's ever existed. To kind of contrast, like, hey, that's where America saw us. That's where we started in America. This is what these women have done. And you could have gone even further. You could have had an extra episode where it's just an hour-long sit-down interview, have like Oprah interview and talk with Katherine Johnson, and maybe talk with Mary's kids, and talk with Dorothy's living children. Like, you could have done a full celebration. And also, and this is the petty in me, that would have been kind of a middle finger, because that was January 2017. Trump got inaugurated that month. It was the darkest timeline. That's kind of a fuck you. Like, nah, we're not going nowhere. Have Obama just come over there and be like, hey, just know this is where Black people are. This is the greatness that we are. I think that would have been, I personally think that would have been a really cool and a really symbolic kind of celebration to kind of have it. 40th anniversary of Roots. Black people were slaves.
What you're saying makes sense, but they wanted that Christmas viewership money.
That's true.
And they got it. Why don't you hit them with the opening weekend numbers?
So yeah. Sorry. I will say this, Jank, they could have cleaned up in January, but the movie was released December the 25th, 2016, because, Christmas. And in its opening, there were charity screenings. That is a lot of shit. Charity screenings, all that. Anyway, movie grossed in its domestic run. God damn it, it's not giving me that. Jesus Christ. Limited release.
Well,
it is a whole lot of bullshit numbers. Anyway, movie made $256 million in its totality. I ain't got time to do all them damn numbers. $236 million on a $25 million budget.
And it made just about 10% of that opening weekend. So not bad.
Yeah.
They would have.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, they would have killed. But damn. No, if it's a miniseries, they ain't got to worry about like box office.
But Jamel, I want to draw your attention again to how the fact that a capitalistic idea was made, and as opposed to doing something symbolic to help the community, something was done about dollars to release it tactically when people would spend the most on it, not when it would help people the most. And the whole point of art is expression, not to express these dollars out of you. You know what I'm saying? It's to express something that needs to be said. So do you think that even though Hidden Figures was full of caricatures and people who represent spirits of the time, do you think Hidden Figures is overall a positive?
That's a heady and meaty question, because you're basically saying, is it, if you do a bad thing for a good reason, does that have value? And it's like, there are some noticeable historical gaps in this movie. There are just some tonal choices in this movie, but are those worth the fact that now a generation of kids are now going to grow up more knowing about these three women, and perhaps that may inspire the next generation of Black women in STEM fields. So, damn, this is some Disney shit that they do with their movies about like race, like Remember the Titans.
On that spoonful of sugar from start to end, bro.
It's so, they give you just enough to make you feel good about something and cover up the facts. So, damn.
This is also
honestly,
Go ahead.
I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if you can really justify a good thing, doing a bad thing to get some good. That is basically what Amanda Waller was doing with the Suicide Squad. We're going to have these murderers and possible rapists out here doing a whole lot of bad shit for the benefit of the United States government, which, that's complicated. But so, history, what are your thoughts on this?
Absolutely not, man. I think that like stuff like this is the reason why we're gonna have mumble mouth like productions later when it comes to your actual projects. So you look at like this type of project. Now, granted, I also want to say that this is also the year when people were saying that they were kind of tired of the black sufferings. So you have films that was like, I think this was not too far off from like 12 Years a Slave. This is not too far off from Harriet Tubman and so on and so forth. So like these black suffering films. So yes, in context, this probably felt a lot better, but I feel like this is the way that I can explain it. And I'm going to reference more like another production, which is Cancel Court. They said that it was about 90s hip hop versus like modern day hip hop, which is the most dangerous era. And when you look at people who was in the 90s, they were living their life, and then when it came to the younger dudes, they just kind of like, fuck off, young buck, kind of like that. They gave them an image to follow, but then they just basically, there was no kind of mentorship after that. So the kind of the reference was to like Biggie and Tupac and so on and so forth. And then you look at these modern rappers now, there's like 25 rappers who are supposed to be modern, like next gen rappers, and they all dead. Whereas you like the big people are like Big and Tupac and kind of like that thing. So I look at this and I think that this is going to be the Young Thug of film eventually. Is that we're going to look at this shit and we're going to think like, oh man, Amistad was amazing. And Black Panther, not the Black Panther, but Panther was a good movie about the Black Panther Party and stuff like that. But then we're going to get films like this, and realistically, we're going to get an Arkansas 8 movie and realize that one of those Arkansas 8s is a African. You know what I mean? Who did not go to church. They just wound up just moving into that. We're going to get one of the films about the boycotts, the Woodward boycotts, and come to find out there was a bunch of Native Americans, or there was actually white people that was nice enough to give them pie. You know, we're gonna get those type of movies where it's gonna mush mouth these things and try to kind of like do this white savior thing. And realistically, is it really gonna be beneficial for the culture? No, it's not doing the critical thinking that it needs to do to be able to have the conversation of y'all peoples was fucked up at one point in time. Our people had to struggle at some time. But guess what? Our people also was fucked up to each other. That goes into the conversations about the husbands being sexist to their wives. So the critical thinking aspect of it is going to be completely gone. It's going to be completely mush. And that's my perspective of it. So I don't think that doing a film like this did any good for the future. You should have just did a documentary on these 3 women at this point in time.
All right. With that, let's go into a few, before we get into our official Historical Voices rating, I do want to take a moment and actually give some further recognition to the women themselves. We'll start off with Mary Jackson and some of her legacies and her accomplishments. So, of course, she became the first Black female engineer in the history of NASA. She also was awarded a posthumous Congressional Gold Medal back in 2019. Probably my favorite thing that happened with her in 2018, a school in Salt Lake City, Utah, they voted to change the school Jackson Elementary. They renamed it in honor of Mary Jackson from President Andrew Jackson, which, if you know Andrew Jackson, fuck that guy. And she also, there was a satellite named in honor of her back in 2020 that was launched into orbit as well. She received a whole lot of letters of like accomplishments from Langley, from NASA. So she received a ton of praise in that respect. With regards to Dorothy Vaughan, Dorothy, she also, again, received a few different honors, including the Congressional Gold Medal. In 2019, in October of that year, a lunar crater was named after her, by a fellow scientist. She received her graduate from Wilberforce University, my sister's alma mater, and also, like Mary in 2020, a satellite named in her honor was launched into space. Katherine Johnson. There is a lot because he got her flowers. Let me try and keep this keep this as concise as possible. She co-authored 26 scientific papers. In 2015, she received the Presidential Medal of Freedom. She's, of course, been cited as a pioneering Black woman in STEM fields. She received the induction to the National Women's Hall of Fame in 2021. As with the other women, received the Congressional Gold Medal in 2019. Received an honorary doctorate degree from the College of William and Mary in 2018. She received honors from the Astronomical Society. She has received a whole lot of stuff. Basically, all three of these women are what you would call geniuses and deserve a ton of credit and a ton of praise. And so, again, we don't have enough time to go over all the different things that the honors and stuff that Katherine Johnson received, but she received a myriad of them. Of the women in the film, Octavia Spencer received nominations for the Golden Globes for her role as Dorothy Vaughan, and she also received an Oscar. The film itself received 3 Oscar noms, including the supporting actress nom for Octavia Spencer. Oh, this is the year that Viola Davis won for Fences, so shout out to her. Received a nomination for Best Picture as well as Best Adapted Screenplay. Pharrell, along with Hans Zimmer, you might know him from The Dark Knight, worked on the music for the film. Yeah, the film, of course, made a lot of money. The film was financially successful, but will it get the greatest honor that a film can get? And that is a high rating from Historical Voices. So, as y'all know, every week we have our rating system, our 5-tier rating system: winner, edger, winner, edger, slumper, sleeper, and dumpster.
Dumpster juice.
Jesus.
Dumpster flies buzzing around.
Okay. So, you've been testing my patience this whole night. Just know that.
Jamel been trying to take the high road.
Likewise.
We're gonna start off with you.
I can say.
Let's move forward amicably, Mr. Williams, and let's get to the ratings. Okay. JT, what say you? What rating do you give Hidden Figures from 2016?
This movie is a low winner. The reason it's a low winner is because Hollywood made a good movie. Just because it's a good movie, don't make it right.
Damn.
Very fair point. History.
If you ain't seen Hidden Figures, I'm gonna tell you, go watch Hidden Figures. Yeah, but we're gonna talk about that for the voice reason.
History. What say you? What rating do you give 2016's Hidden Figures?
Definitely a slumper. A slumper. I'm not gonna give him a dumpster. I'm not gonna give him a sleeper. This was a fairly decent movie, but I think JT kind of encapsulated the actual statement behind it. The more and more you know about the production and the actual back history of this, it just knocks it down, and it just keeps knocking the wind out of the actual film. You realize that it defeats the purpose of it, man. That running scene that you repeated, that running joke that you kept making literally throughout the film, just loses its point because of the fact that she was just using regular white people bathrooms. Kevin Costner did not take down any of those walls. This film was faking fucking racism throughout the whole time, and it just felt and white saviors throughout the whole time. And I will say that brava to making a great film, but also making an amazing film about white savior syndrome. Just brava in that.
Okay, so that actually leads me, before I give my rating, the last little behind the scenes thing. You just brought it up, the whole white savior trope that may have been in the film, and I think we kind of agree. Kevin Costner's character, kind of a white savior. The director, Theodore Melfi, said this, screenwriter director. He had some thoughts about this. When asked about the white savior thing, he said, there needs to be white people who do the right thing. There needs to be black people who do the right thing. That's a movie. And someone does the right thing. And so, who cares who does the right thing as long as the right thing is achieved? That was criticized. Someone from Vice by the name of Dexter Thomas. That sounds like a mother. Dexter is a surprisingly black name. But anyway, in this case, it means that a white person doesn't have to think about the possibility that were they around back in the 1960s in the South, they may have been one of the bad ones. And a journalist from The Atlantic by the name of Megan Garber, that seems like a white lady, said that the film's narrative trajectory involved elements of the white savior. And the director, of course, because this is the move that a lot of them do, he said he found the accusations hurtful. He said, it was very upsetting to me. Let me get into character.
No.
It was very upsetting to me because I'm at a place where I've lived with my life colorless, and I grew up in Brooklyn. I walked to school with people of all shapes and sizes and colors, and that's how I've lived my life. So it's very upsetting to me that we still have this conversation. I get upset when I hear black film, and so does Taraji P. Henson. Way to throw Taraji under the bus. It's just a film. And if we keep labeling something a black film or a white film, basically it's modern day segregation. We're all humans. Any human can tell any human story. I don't want to have this conversation about black film or white film anymore. I want to hear conversations about film. All lives matter. He didn't say that. He didn't say all lives matter.
No, just give your rating, dog. JT, dog. After that, yeah, Jarrell, drop your rating real fast, dog. And JT, let's get to
just I believe Zeba Blade, which Zeba, that could be one of us. She kind of nails it with this with her description of it. His frustration is a perfect example of how, when it comes to open dialogues about depictions of people of color on screen, it behooves white people, especially those who position themselves as allies, to listen. The inclusion of the bathroom scene doesn't make Melfi a bad filmmaker or a bad person or racist, but it's a suggestion that a feel-good scene like that was needed for the marketability and overall appeal of the film speaks to the fact that Hollywood at large still has a long way to go in telling black stories, no matter how many strides have been made. I feel history getting mad as I was reading and giving an interpretation of Theodore Melfi, the director of the movie. I wanted to give him an accent, but he's an American. So, in my opinion, this movie gets... Had I not read that quote, I probably would have given it a solid edger. But this is borderline. This is right. This is about as close between edger and slumper as you can get. It is right here. It is literally just right here. Mm-hmm. I still give it more on the edger side because of the performances of the women, because the story is getting told. I'm giving it a very low edger. Again, borderline slumper, but I still give it just a little bit of that edger. Final thoughts, gentlemen, before we get to JT to give us the voice of reason.
Nah, man.
JT, history. I guess we're turning things back over to you. That's gonna do it for our movie review for the week.
Yeah. Make sure that you check us out on Spotify, wherever you get your audio acoustical pleasures from. JT, man, we finish our week every time when we got all this crazy nonsense, especially when we got people who say it's all lives matters for films. We still take a little time to take a burrito and stuff. So give us some reason to be able to get back on track where we need to be at, man. So what's the voice of reason this week, buddy?
This week, I'd like to talk to you about entertainment versus value. Well, we can all agree that Hidden Figures is a technically well-done movie. It absolutely takes away from the film the more you know about the history. One of the biggest problems I have is for a lot of people, this is going to be their version of history. They're never going to go back and actually read more about these wonderful women and their incredible minds who helped get us into space and on the moon. This is as far as they're actually going to go into the truth. That is so sad, but that's because they prioritize entertainment over the actual value, the real story, the real history, their history of America is giving them. So make sure when you look at some entertainment that you seek the value in that. And if the more you learn about a product of entertainment makes it worse to you, well, that's your conscience letting you know where it lies. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.